I gotta tell you, it's really, really easy to be drawn into all the hundreds of stories out there, especially when you are waking up to a new or deeper version or understanding of yourself. It can get so overwhelming because there are so many avenues that you can go down as you try to figure out who the self is that you have begun becoming acquainted with. Begun becoming. Anyway, in the beginning of my journey, it was so easy to not get mixed up in any of it. I was so strict with myself about what I would expose myself to, what I would listen to, what I would consume, any content, any ideas about anything. I was so strict about where I would learn, who I would learn from, and I would listen to the stuff going on around me very selectively, but I would also not carry any of it, not take any of it. And you know what that did for me is it allowed me to figure things out for myself, not to carry the truth of others because it sounds believable or because it sounds interesting or because it sounds exciting or whatever it is. It allowed me to only believe the experiences that I had. In other words, at that time, I spent a lot of time removing or peeling away all the layers of belief, all the layers of belief. And so it was really easy to continue to do that when I would come across other information. I would see it, note it, but not hold it. And that also allowed me to go deeper within the journey of self-discovery, within the journey to understand myself at a deeper level. As time goes, things change and we start learning from different places, different people, and it will expand. You will see hundreds of avenues and they all look interesting and fascinating and you want to know all about all of them. But what happens when we do that is that the fluffiness of the mind takes us on the wild ride of exciting ventures and journeys and stories, and it's so easy to just find yourself on one path and very quickly on another the next day. How you liking my wild hair? Anyway, um, and I will admit there have been moments where I have very much been drawn down a number of these paths, and also studying metaphysics has also kind of opened the door to wanting to understand from a broader perspective, and not for the purpose of belief or believing, but for the purpose of comparison, to be able to make that connection between all the different schools of thought, and seeing that line, that fine line that connects them all to the same story, to the same bigger picture. And I guess maybe the point of what I'm trying to get at here is that at some point after you've done all your venturing and your journeying and you need to come back. You need to come back and say, okay, I've done this exploring. Where do I wish to put my roots down? Where do I wish to really base myself? In other words, what path is going to bring me back into alignment, back to the center? And I can tell you that for me, that path is nothing other than oneness. Yes, we have this experience of oneness, and then we start to, and we live our lives. Even before you have the experience, you live your life according to whatever you're living it according to, and sometimes that opens up the gateway or the doorway for these deeper experiences. But coming back to those experiences, not so much the experiences as much as the lifestyle, the way of living, the belief in the experiences, that I don't need to create a story around these experiences. I don't need to create a story around my practices. I do the practices because I know they bring me into alignment, right? And I believe in oneness because I have experienced some degree of oneness, different versions, void, nothingness, looking at a lamp and recognizing myself in everything around me and everything around me in myself, seeing no separation as much as there was an I, a self, looking at all other selves, but feeling that connection at a much deeper level than just mental. After having those experiences, it for me was like, yes, after a while, when things start kind of settling and the mind starts taking over, and then you want to understand things, having those experiences later on started the journey of oneness is not the end. Oneness is not the end goal. We're all trying to get to this experience of that deep connection. But then you get to that experience and you realize that you're here because you've come out of that experience. You're here having this experience because that oneness was not the end. It was the beginning and the end, yes. It will be the end again. But then it will be the beginning of something else. It's pointless trying to rush towards oneness when you've come out of it to experience this separateness. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I am in a place right now where I gotta tell you, after having that initial experience of what I only recently came to understand as etheric wings, my mind started going and going and going and going and going, questioning and wondering. So I know myself as Simone and I know myself as God. But what the heck happens between Simone and God? Where's all of that self? And the questions about who is she, or who is that soul self? Who is that higher self? Because even the higher self is not a part of God. It's a separate experience, right? Yes, God is everything. Everything is God. But it's still an individual expression of consciousness, right? So all these questions about what do these etheric wings mean? I don't want to create a story around them. I don't want to tell myself that it means XYZ and then delude myself into whatever reality or whatever experience, which if you decide to do is absolutely fine too, because you can use that delusion to create your reality if that's the reality that you choose, right? So it just depends on whether you're using this information consciously and from a place of deeper awareness. And yeah, I just found myself questioning and wondering and getting frustrated and feeling like I had amnesia, like, where are all these memories? Why are they not coming forward? How do I get them back? How do I know who I am? And then I just had to take a moment and be like, hey, you do know who you are. Remember, you do know who you are. And at the time of knowing your God self, you recognize that everything that came in between was all a part of the one. You didn't need all the tiny parts because you had the one. You had that experience, that knowledge, that feeling, that knowing, that quality of being. And so it brought me right back to what's the place that brings equilibrium? What's the place that brings centeredness? It's whatever it is for you. For me, it's the journey of oneness. It's the recognition of oneness. It's the recognition of me in all things and all things in me. It's the recognition of God self. Through God's self, every other self is possible. Every other self exists. Every other self is vital, is important, is loved, is needed. There is no need or desire to know anything, to be anything, to change anything. One more thing that I would like to note is that with all these narratives and all these stories going on around us, sometimes we can be guilted into coming out of whatever path we feel most drawn to in order to answer the calling or the demand of people on a different journey. I'll give you an example. There are 1,000 things that are wrong with the planet right now and with humanity, and there are so many issues, but we cannot be involved in all of them. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a thing that they're serving, especially when they start to awaken to that deeper self. And some people will go and save the trees, and they are necessary to do that. We need those people. And some people will go and fight for the freedom of children, and they will rally the troops to do the same. And some people will sit in peace on the mountain to show other people how to sit in peace within themselves, so that they may go out and fight from a place of that centeredness and peace. Every journey is necessary. I tell you, sometimes it would throw me off now and again if I wasn't in my center, when I would see things pop up on Facebook or on other social media sites about love and light people. These love and light people are delusional. These love and light people need to wake up to the reality that not all is great and wonderful. And then I think, yeah, but we also need the love and light people to remind us that there is love and light, to remind us that outside of all this trauma and outside of all of this fighting and discomfort, that there is oneness, that there is connectedness, that there is love and light, and you are it. So, dear friends, whatever feels right for your journey, allow that thing in that moment without the sounds of all the birds and the preachers and the bees and the wolves and the whatever. I'm going off on a tangent, but without all those noises swinging you and swaying you off your path. I'm gonna leave it at that, and wishing you a beautiful night. I'm gonna get some sleep. It is currently 2 a.m., 2:30 possibly. I've been sleeping very late lately and waking up very late, and yeah, needing to find a little bit of rhythm. Though I am enjoying these late nights, so maybe don't force it. Yeah, allow what is to be. And when things shift and when things change, go with the flow of life. Much love. Have a beautiful one and sleep tight.